Raptor prime is an incredibly aggressive subspecies of Utah raptor found on the island. It tends to travel in small hunting packs, attacking smaller prey with its sharp teeth and enlarged forepaws. When hunting in packs, the pack leader can vocalize a signal that acts as a battle cry. Be prepared to run or fight if you hear the call of the Utah raptor. The pack will repeat the calls and attack with much greater intensity. One of the faster creatures on the island, Utah raptor often uses their pack numbers to their advantage by swarming around their prey before it can react. The large curved talon on the second toe of this subspecies seems particularly suited for dealing significant damage. Utah raptor prime usually kill its prey with numerous slashing and biting attacks in rapid sequence. What the Utah raptor lacks in size, it makes up for in ingenuity. Rather than chase down small creatures, Utah raptor will pounce and pin its prey to the ground rather than chasing it around. Despite its normally aggressive nature, Utah raptors have become one of the primary combat mounts for roaming bands of raiders, as well as scouts for larger collectives. Those who ride Utah raptor claim they are difficult to tame, but then fiercely loyal. As a carnivore, once tamed, they require a steady stream of meat to sustain. Leadsichthys conviviumbrosia is probably the largest fish in the waters around the island. Its meat is also extremely succulent, a surprise given its size. It is often traded with the same value as prime meat, and colloquially called prime fish. Of course, not all Leadsichthys meat is this high quality, but most of it is. While the demand for Leadsichthys meat is high, the fish is notoriously difficult to track and hunt. Between its large size, powerful attacks, incredible speed when it turns to flee, and humankind's general ineptitude on open water, actually killing a Leadsichthys is one of the island's more difficult tasks. The hunt for an extremely elusive breed of the fish, the fabled great albino Leadsichthys, has been known to drive otherwise sensible men and women mad with obsession, as if all evil were visibly personified and made practically assailable in this one creature. Despite its large size and the fact that it may well be strong enough to carry heavy loads, Leadsichthys does not appear to be intelligent enough to tame. Nevertheless, some large tribes keep an enormous pen with a few Leadsichthys trapped inside for cultivating purposes, as bits of prime fish can be repeatedly scraped off the gargantuan beast without killing it.
I am perplexed. Even with an expanded number of test subjects, I just cannot find the passion that I once had for my research. I truly thought that my recent adventure had lit a fire in my belly, but I constantly find myself losing focus. Confound it all. Perhaps said adventure itself is the problem. Thinking about it, I am also eager to discuss the obelisks and the artifacts I found with my assistants, even when I'm not in the mood for research. There is a certain allure to them that I cannot describe, something that causes my thoughts to drift in their direction, like the pull of a strong tide. But it could simply be a passing fancy. I must give myself more time.
shares a similar silhouette with the pteranodon and nests near the absolute highest peaks. Upon closer inspection, though, Quetzalcoatlus is an enormous creature of tremendous power. I find it strange that such a large, imposing beast would be so skittish. Unlike other creatures of its size, it is more likely to flee than fight. I suppose the decision to flee from any trouble keeps the species alive on an island with so many dangerous predators. But then, how does it eat enough to sustain its massive size? Tamed Quetzalcoatlus have a very specific role on the island. Too slow to be an efficient local transport, and too weak to be an effective warbird. The tribes I have encountered tend to employ it as a mass carrier. Quetzalcoatlus is primarily used by these masters of the skies to safely carry vast quantities of supplies, creatures, and human cargo from one base to another without tiring. Coelodonta utilicero is a friendly herbivore, common to the tundra and grassland regions of the island. It is a large and dangerous creature, though it seems fairly trusting of the fauna around it. Once attacked, Coelodonta begins charging towards its foe. It builds up momentum as it charges, and depending on its ultimate impact speed, the results can be terrifying. With enough room to charge, it can even skewer the largest creatures in just one gore. Despite how powerful Coelodonta are, many tribes still hunt them extensively due to their unique resources. Its horns can ground into a highly arousing powder, and its thick fur can support many insulating outfits, making the Coelodonta in high demand. Even less advanced tribes use packs to hunt them down, though at significant peril. When not being hunted for its horns, Coelodonta makes an impressive beast of burden. Its ability to take on far larger opponents, provided sufficient charging room, as well as its sizable load capacity, make it a solid addition to any trader party or gathering expedition.
Well, I think I've gotten as far in my studies of the obelisks as my archaeological expertise will take me. A shame. This has been such a joyous little diversion. I hate to stay. You've forgotten the origins of this little excursion. Spelunking. Did you yourself not hypothesize that there may be more artifacts hidden elsewhere on this island? Surely you can't give up before confirming that. No, certainly not. Nor can I be expected to scour the Ark's corners alone. Perhaps someone can spell in my stead. Better yet, perhaps someone has already spelunked.
Has one of the most interesting adaptations of any creature. Like all parasol, it has a signature crest on its head. Very docile at first, I've been able to approach the creature without disturbing it. If startled, however, the creature can vocalize a distress call to the surrounding area that warns of danger. Parasaurolophus tends to be low on the food chain and is hunted by everything, creatures and humans alike, which explains its speech. It is a good sign to manage to keep up with it long enough to kill it. Despite being what most tribes consider a relatively useless creature to tame, I once met an interesting woman who had tamed an entire herd of them. She informed me that many overlooked the creature's potential. She even graciously gifted me a fancy saddle to put on my own Parasaurolophus one day. As a relatively simple creature to domesticate, Parasaurolophus is commonly one of the first mounts a tribe will be able to acquire. Its ability to run relatively fast for lengthy intervals makes it a solid mode of medium-range transportation, though it has almost no ability to defend itself or its rider in a traditional sense. Smaller creatures, however, appear to be frightened by the horn of Parasaurolophus, although it doesn't do much damage. It also has decent weight-bearing capabilities, which could prove useful for nomadic tribes as they work to establish a presence on the island. I've combed through more carnival droppings than I care to calculate, and I can't say they provided many answers. All the predators in this region have very similar diets. With so many different predators hunting the same prey, the populations of all these species shouldn't be sustainable. Yet I've found nothing to indicate that any population shift is actually happening. It's just bizarre. The longer I'm here, the more I realize that this region shouldn't exist. Its climate is out of sync with the rest of the island. Many of the creatures here are millions of years ahead of the dinosaurs, and the ecosystem is almost static. Something's off. I need to review my notes. Among the island's swamp-based threats, Sarcosuchus excubator is a lot like what you might expect from a giant crocodile, a patient killing machine. It spends much of its days lazily waiting in the water for prey to walk near. That said, it is not opposed to scurrying onto land and pressing the issue when hungry. A good tactic for escaping many predators is to jump into the water, as most are slow swimmers. This is a bad tactic for escaping a Sarcosuchus, obviously, as they are actually faster than they are on land. Whether in land or water, it utilizes a well-rounded arsenal of attacks to display its prowess as a hunter. If it desires to grab a predator and spin into a death roll, quickly lunge forward for a surprise attack, or target a foe directly behind it, it is able to do so with extreme ease. Sarcosuchus is a ferocious creature that even causes the fearless piranha to flee at the sight of it. Despite being river-dwelling creatures, Sarcosuchus seem quite at ease in the oceans.
I have always tried to maintain a strict neutrality when it comes to tribal matters, but then again, I have never had an offer this tempting from someone as respectable as Mr. Nerva. Provide him with test subjects, but he has also expressed a mutual interest in investigating the obelisks. All he asks from me is that I provide him with reliable counsel. I would trust few tribes to be able to make good on such promises, but Mr. Nerva's new legion is perhaps the most powerful tribe on the island. Indeed, if they maintain their current trajectory, they may be the only powerful tribe on the island. His offer is worth considering, at the very least. I am starting to become quite cross with Mr. Nerva's impatience. I had barely any time at all to study the obelisk before we set out again, this time to that cave Miss Walker mentioned. I wonder, does he believe that she knows more about the obelisks than I do? Nonsense! Any fool could see that I am the superior scientist. Besides, I am his official advisor while she is his prisoner. She isn't even privy to my presence. Nonetheless, I feel compelled to prove my scientific method. Whatever is in that cave, I shall be the one to discover its purpose. The mysteries of the obelisks are mine to uncover, not Miss Walker's or even Mr. Nerva's. Mine.
However, it tends to spend far more time hunting for fish over the open deep sea. In fact, I have rarely spotted a wild Pelagornis anywhere near the coasts of the main island, as it prefers to rest its wings by paddling on the ocean's surface rather than waddling along the island's beaches. Perhaps this behavior is a result of its survival instincts. The early Miocene was a post-dinosaur epoch after all, and Pelagornis would not be accustomed to such predators. Considering how quickly it flees from humans, one can hardly blame its caution. Because of its ability to fly, walk, and surface swim, a tamed Pelagornis is one of the island's most versatile mounts. But this comes at a cost. The same webbed feet that allow Pelagornis to serenely maneuver along the island's surface prevent it from carrying prey, which may limit its appeal to some survivors. I'm not entirely sure how Therizinosaurus multiensis stays populated on the island. It is surprisingly slow for its size and is a solitary predator, so no pack to back it up. I suppose the fact that its sheer power rivals Tyrannosaurus is the only thing that allows this very aggressive, medium-sized predator to thrive. The claws of Therizinosaurus are some of the most versatile biological tools I've encountered. As adept at removing trees and foliage from Therizinosaurus' path as they are at piercing the thick shells and hide of the island's most defensive creatures if backed into a fight. A tamed Therizinosaurus is one of the most versatile mounts a survivor can have. It can be trained to use its claws brutally or delicately, allowing the rider to primarily harvest with enhanced efficiency the specific kinds of resources that he or she needs. And in combat, these same claws can pierce straight through the toughest armor. This flexibility more than makes up for its inability to carry the large loads of the island's many herbivorous beasts of burden. Phiomia ignavis is another of the island's generally docile herd animals. They are small enough that almost any predator can bring them down, but large enough to provide plenty of meat. Were it not for the protection of the herd and their instinct to run from any predator, these would almost certainly be hunted to extinction. Phiomia's tusks and trunk make it especially suited to scavenging plant life from the ground. It uses its tusks to dig up loose plant life, then uses its stubby trunk to scoop the foliage into its mouth. Adult Phiomia often dig up food for their young, and watching a baby Phiomia attempt to use its trunk can be quite amusing. While it is completely possible to ride a Phiomia around, they are a meagre choice. They work very well, however, as pack mules. If you feed the Phiomia a stimberry, it serves as a laxative in the creature's digestive system. Knowing this, tribal communities often keep a herd of these as livestock to produce mass quantities of fertilizer.
I've decided to take a brief vacation from the laboratory. Well, I say that I've decided to, but the whole thing was my assistant Isabel's idea. She noticed that I'd been quite ruffled lately and suggested that I take a bit of time to myself before rushing headlong into my next experiment. Such an observant young woman, that Isabel. She's somewhat lacking as a chemist, but she understands my moods almost better than I do. I dare say that an old-fashioned adventure would do me some good. Nothing like some rigorous recreation to clear the mind. Perhaps I'll go spelunking. Yeah, a splendid idea. I know just the place for it.
Fairly unremarkable by the island standards, Oncorhynchus grexlamia is a generally passive fish. Its main form of protection is swimming in a large school. Oncorhynchus does not like conflict, and generally swims away from anything larger than itself at very high speeds. Once provoked, however, Oncorhynchus becomes quite aggressive, along with its nearby brethren. It locks onto its prey with its long saber teeth and begins draining the creature's blood. This loss of blood is not too dangerous, but when a school of Oncorhynchus attack their target quickly loses speed and stamina from blood loss, drowning if it cannot breathe underwater. Like many of the smaller fish found on or around the island, Oncorhynchus can be eaten, but it is also herded and harvested for its resources. In particular, certain cuts of Oncorhynchus meat are considered to have superb quality, and are often referred to as prey fish, used for specific high-end concoctions and taming the island's many piscivorous creatures. Usually found in the deepest parts of the water around the island, Ammonitena multiamicus has a strange relationship with the other creatures of the deep. It must do something beneficial for them, since every nearby sea creature defends Ammonitena when it is attacked. What this distinct symbiosis is based on, alas, I have not yet discovered. Ammonitena has also made its way into the deeper parts of many underwater caves. Even within these caves, the creature will draw attention if assaulted, making harvesting its resource-rich shell a tricky proposition, depending on what other dangers may be lurking nearby. Like many of the untamable ocean dwellers, Ammonitena still has enough utility to be a valuable hunting target. If a tribe is willing to risk the wrath of nearby would-be protectors, Ammonitena bile can be harvested from the innards of its gills. This bile can then be worked over with other chemicals to produce powerful concoctions, the most notable being a mixture that causes creatures to become enraged and attack the source of the scent. Daeodon comidentus is the largest known species of Entelodon, an omnivorous family of ancient mammals that are sometimes referred to as hell pigs. Even though Daeodon has as many similarities to modern hippopotamidae as it does to swiner, I found that to be a suitable nickname. Daeodon is as mean as it looks, and any survivor who wanders too close will find that out the hard way. As an omnivore with a voracious appetite, Daeodon scavenges, forages, and hunts to survive. It has little qualms when it comes to its diet, and that has helped it thrive on the island's harsh tundra. Its temper hasn't hurt either, as many would-be predators would rather seek out less vicious prey. Many tribes have made excellent use of Daedon packs within their war parties, not only because of its fierce nature, but due to its extraordinary ability to rapidly heal itself. I've theorized that this healing factor is why it seems to have such a high metabolism. Though what is particularly extraordinary is its capability to share this benefit with nearby creatures. I've even heard some survivors mention that the Daedon also has a unique ability to root out rare mushrooms as well.